Hey, Gary's Gulch, welcome back. So this is the third in a series of conversations and discussions about helping business owners improve their businesses, higher revenue, greater quality of life, a strong business team that is their family that they can grow with until it's time for whatever the next challenge looks like. And that may be years down the road. It may be a couple years down the road. I'm working on a certification program that I'm extremely excited about. It's from the Exit Planning Institute, and it's called CEPA, or Certified Exit Planning Advisor role. And essentially it's helping me become the quarterback for businesses that are small to medium size, maybe even on the larger size. And the goal is to help them be something that is attractive for a buyer. Now, what if you're not looking to buy or to sell your business? What if you're just getting started? Why would I be talking about exit planning? And that is somewhat of a put off to people sometimes. Yet what I've learned, and what I completely 100% agree with, is that exit planning is simply good business strategy. Think about, and I talk about this in the episode with Jen, if you were thinking about how do I make my car so that it's ready to sell at the highest value. Maybe you have a collector's car, right? You'd want to have it inspected. You'd take it to the mechanic. You would make sure it got nice and polished, that it's got all its maintenance records up to date. Like, you would make it look good to somebody who is going to do some due diligence on buying this very highly valued thing, and you could sell it at top dollar. Same thing with your collector coin set or your own primary residence. So when you have things that have an asset that has value, you want to present it in the best possible way. And this isn't just lipstick on a pig like I've seen happen to rental properties. I'm talking about actually improving the organization across the board. So if you think about a business, you've got human capital, you've got social capital, you have equity in the business itself, you have a long product line, and then you have redundancy so that it can sustain itself for years to come. And so this idea of exit planning is just looking at it introspectively, looking at the whole organization, the people, the processes, the financials, of course, the assets that you have, and the pipeline that you have going forward in both customers and how you do it, attracting them with marketing, what you currently have as your products and services, all of those things lined up together, and can we improve them so that they are best in class for our industry? There's always a wide range of how you value a company. I can tell you that the number one question I ask business owners is, what's your business worth? I say, what's your revenue and what's your business worth? And most of them have no idea what the business is worth. And frankly, for most of them, the actual answer to that question is nothing. No one will pay them for their business because it's such a mess. It has not been strategically designed and improved to the point where a professional coming in and looking at it would say, this, I can see the value that they placed on it and why they did. I agree with the value, or I think it might even be a little bit higher, and there's some value, some hidden value here that I can pull out of it. I'm willing to pay what they're asking or whatever. It is important to go through this process. Again, that scenario I just gave you is that you actually do want to sell it. What happens when you make that collector's car so awesome, you make your primary residence so amazing that you can't find anything that's anywhere near as cool and as good as that? Then you just hold on to it. But now your experience is far better, your quality of life in the business world is far better if you have a team that is humming along without you there, and you're not actually working in the business all the time, you're working on it. And so many people go through this process not because they actually want to exit, because they want to have a company that anyone out there who likes that kind of a company would pay top dollar to get, because it means they have an amazing machine, an amazing team, and their quality of life, their revenue across the board is going to be better off than it was before me as the CEPA financial advisor walked into their life. So that's the goal, that's the intent. And when I'm that quarterback helping my business owner clients get to those next levels, I have to do it with a team, because I'm definitely not the expert in all the areas. And so there's an estate planning attorney, there's an accounting team, there's an evaluation or valuation team, there's a human resources team to help out with how deep your bench is, so to speak. There's a marketing group maybe. And so this is something that goes through these 90-day repetitive cycles of a little bit of improvement, a little more improvement in a new area. Then you just keep evaluating and putting it back into practice. So that's what I'm really excited about going and doing. First thing is I have to pass my test here in a few days. And so while you're getting ready for Thanksgiving turkey, I'll be doing that and trying to not look like a turkey by not passing my exam. I look very much forward to helping my business owner clients out there, attracting additional ones. And as I mentioned on the episode, We're coming up on an incredible 250-year anniversary of this wonderful country we have. And we were successful for many decades because people took control of their family unit. They took some accountability for how the family unit was doing and for their own personal businesses. And pretty much everybody out there had a personal business because we didn't have Amazon to solve things from around the world. If the community needed something, somebody in the community started up a business to solve that challenge. And if we can sprinkle the ideas of successful business ownership around our country and get it strengthened even more, then you're in control of your own agency, your own destiny, which means that big government doesn't have a place in our world. And I'm not just specifically after big government. What I'm really after is families, business owners, people with real estate and other assets having a stable foundation so that they can live the life that they're inspired to live, because they don't get themselves in a situation where they're beholden to somebody else and have to do what that person says. Please enjoy this episode of now turning the tables from the episode we played last week, which was me on Jen's podcast. We're going to turn that around. And now this is my great friend and client, an inspired business facilitator in the accounting world, Jen McAllister from Rise CPAs and Accountants. As promised, I brought you this round, Jen McAllister. So Jen runs a company, founder of a company called Rise CPA and Accountants. Did I get that right? Accountants?
Yes.
I think I got
Yes,
it.
you're
All
right.
right. Very cool. So Jen, first and foremost, was a client of mine and she was not overbearing and saying, this is my company, I want to work with your clients, anything like that at all. In fact, I had to drag it out of Jen. We had a wonderful podcast. She invited me onto her podcast, and you just heard that last episode because I replayed it for you. And now it's time to introduce Jen. And Jen has grown over the years that I've known her an incredible business that helps my ideal clients. Sorry, real estate investors out there, as I've shifted myself, I'm no longer just for real estate investors. I really want to work with business owners and help businesses thrive. And the reason is because the combination of real estate and business and a tight family unit is what keeps America rolling. So with that introduction, Jen, thank you so much for taking the time to join my audience. And this time, actually talking about your business.
I'm excited to be here, and the tables have turned. You were my guest, now I'm your guest, and I'm really excited to do this again with you.
Of course. So your husband is working in the business with you. Travis works with you in the business, right? And so
Yes.
it started off really you, and then you got Travis to come in once you started getting some momentum, I think. How old is the business, Jen?
So we just celebrated our 3-year anniversary in August. We're young, but it depends on how you look at it. Like 3 years, it's been a long time, and we've learned a lot.
The business is young, and so putting all these pieces together is young, but you've been in accounting for a little while,
My
right?
whole life.
But it has never been about reporting the personal tax return, right? You
No.
have been focused on businesses. So talk about what your ideal customer, your ideal client is like and what really gets you energized.
Yeah. So it's interesting because having CPA in my title, most people assume that's what I do is I do
Hmm.
taxes. And so it's really been a nice journey to not have certain expectations for myself or the company, but to be able to fall into a niche. And what I've realized is all CPAs are not created equal. And I have so much respect for the majority of the CPAs that file the taxes. But what differentiates my company and my team of 12 from other CPA firms is we like to be involved every step of the way. We want to be part of your business from month to month rather than we're going to make an appointment once a year. Yeah, we love that space to be a part of someone's business month to month.
And so you're bringing bookkeeping, you're bringing accounting, you're bringing CFO kind of strategy, right?
Yes, and that's another niche that I love that I didn't purposely say this is what we're going to do, but it came together the right way. So between the 12 of us, we have such a expertise is just across the board. So we've got experienced bookkeepers, degreed accountants, and then myself as a controller and a fractional CFO. And so what I like to tell potential clients is that you may be budgeting for a bookkeeper before meeting me, and you're just going to get that level. But when you join my team, then it's like you've got a team of 12 because you've got experience and expertise in so many different areas. We come together and we collaborate, and It's just a beautiful thing. It's 12 for the price of one.
Good. And so do you actually in the end do you do the tax reporting or do you just hand it off to their beautiful books off to their CPA?
Yeah, we don't do it. And that is one thing that I love to tell my clients is that you don't have to, no longer have to say, okay, this is my bookkeeper, this is my CPA, and hope that the client is the middleman. But no, instead, I want to have a relationship with the CPA or the tax preparer so that it's seamless. And so the client doesn't have to worry about communicating things that oftentimes they don't even know the lingo, so they don't know how to communicate. So I like to become a teammate with whomever they have as their tax preparer. Or if they don't like their tax preparer, then I'm able to suggest one myself.
Got it. Yeah. So it's interesting. People in the industry say tax preparer, and those of us who are frankly trying to avoid the industry, not the industry, but avoid the experience, we say tax strategy and tax reporting. And I think the reason, I shouldn't say we, I personally, I shouldn't speak for other people. I think the reason I do that is because for me, preparing means more than it does to a CPA. Their preparing means get the stuff on the paper. For me, preparing means that it's strategy. So it's like the whole year of getting ready for unveiling the product, which is what we put on paper. And so I think preparing means so much more. It's really tax strategy. And so I know that's the world that your team is in, which is why I asked that question, because I wanted people to understand that you're not just reporting the taxes. You're helping the business build the story that ends up in what's written on the paper.
Yeah, absolutely. And such a good point. Just the word preparation. I hadn't even thought of that before, where on the negative end of things, it's just, hey, we're just going to prepare your taxes. You feed me the numbers, I'll feed you, I'll tell you how much you owe the IRS. And that's just straight like tax prep. But being prepared and preparing throughout the year for your taxes, a totally different and should be positive experience.
Yeah,
And
licensed
yeah.
accountants are stuck there. That is a legal term, I think, tax preparation. It's a
Yeah.
certification,
And
though.
I'll say it again, all CPAs are not created equal. And I'll even throw in with the CPA bucket is tax preparer because you don't even have to be a CPA to prepare someone's
Right.
tax. So
Yeah.
tread carefully, know
Yeah.
what you're dealing with.
Yeah. So I met somebody who went to H&R Block, and there's a place for that. Yet the thing that was so surprising was that the individual who was preparing the taxes was a kid who grew up in her neighborhood who was like working on summer break and preparing taxes. And I was
Yeah.
like, what preparation did they have? I didn't know if that kid had ever even like filed taxes. So
Yeah.
it was interesting. And I knew they were at the wrong place. Okay,
And
so
you
enough
get what
beating
you
up.
pay for.
Yeah.
And like you said, sometimes there is a time and a place for that. And your taxes are so simple and there's no wiggle room that absolutely go to H&R Block. But more often than not, you will save more by paying more for a
Yeah, especially on the
qualified.
preparation side.
Yes,
I mean, on
absolutely.
the strategy side.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Enough beating up on the CPAs. Love them. They definitely provide an important service, and
Yes.
my CPA does a great job. Okay, so if you have a CPA out there, Gary Sculch, I'm not asking you to cheat on your CPA and go talk to Jen. That is not the role she wants. Jen, why are you passionate about, or why did you build the business around helping small to medium sized businesses instead of individuals, families, or something like that?
What I've learned is that when you're a new business owner, and I say new, I mean it could be 10, 15 years even, but when you're a small business owner, I've seen so many times that there is no understanding of the financials. And
Mm,
I don't know if it's intimidation or they don't think they have time, but what I and my team love to bring to the table is to teach and empower the business owners to be able to understand. And I always say, ask the dumb questions. There are no dumb questions because there is some pride involved when you're been in business for so many years. It might feel embarrassing to say, I don't know what that means. I don't know how to read these financials. And instead, I see so many times they're just giving the numbers to the tax preparer or the CPA and saying, tell me how much I owe. And it's a scary thing. But again, I love to empower and teach so that these monthly financials and sometimes even weekly, depending on the nature of the business, that they look at them and it's telling a story and it's telling an accurate story. Another thing that I see so often is they've got a bookkeeper. And so the bookkeeper is data in, but it's just data. And so garbage in, garbage out. And you can't look at a financial statement and make any good business decisions. You might be making like awful ones based on not accurate financial statements. So I just love to teach that empowerment, how to understand to make better business decisions because we all want to be a better business.
Yeah, and maybe another way to make that distinction for bookkeeper, like if I decide that I'm going to deduct something that's not deductible, or it was a really bad tax decision to deduct it at that moment, bookkeeper's not going to see that or even question it. It's just going to go on the page because I said that's where it went.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then as far as I really like what you said about there being a lot of, and I've seen this with my business owner clients, especially those that are in the first few years of startup, they are very apprehensive about this conversation. It's like they know that the guests are coming over and they swept everything into the closet and they don't want to go in there and they definitely don't want their guests to go in there. So the moment somebody says, "What's in that closet?" they're totally stressed out, right? And it's so helpful to say, listen, I help people clean out closets. Now, you probably don't have a dirty closet. Most people have a pretty dirty closet. I'd love to help you with the closet, right? So that's more what I believe your approach is with your company is that I know you don't understand this. You're still trying to put food on the table and make sure employees get fed or get paid. This isn't your wheelhouse. And so
Yeah.
that's where you and your team step in.
And you're absolutely right. 9 out of 10 times a client will say, I'm so embarrassed. And I say,
Mhm.
we love when someone's embarrassed because you don't have to be. This is what we love. We love to clean out the closets with your analogy and really let them just be comfortable and not be embarrassed at all.
So I'm wanting to position my business, my wealth strategy, my podcast around helping individuals take control in their lives, to have agency in their lives. You know this very well. I'm just saying it so the audience hears it again. And so it starts with a family unit. And then from there, being in control of your assets. So buy a rental property maybe or something like that. And then once you get a business, now you have an extended family, or you have all these employees that you're committed to helping grow their lives. And then you have all these customers and you're helping their lives. And so you're really starting to be able to share your abilities, your unique geniuses to other people. And when you can do that with a few different streams, you mentioned you love business owners that have multiple businesses. That's multiple unrelated, hopefully, income streams that provide them so much resiliency. And it allows you, I think, to have the ability to pull out special tools, right? Like you have one business that can help the other business, or they can do one thing with one because they have multiple ones that can help their taxes. Am I on the right
Yes.
path there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I've been looking at a long time, Jen, maybe even before your business started, at a way that I could help business owners at scale. And not the huge businesses that can buy their or can have their own in-house team, their own
Mhm.
CFO, their own accountants, their own bookkeepers, rather those that aren't quite there yet, but they have a taste of it and they want to grow. I'm not trying to specifically focus on somebody who's just in month one business startup. They really just bought themselves a business and they don't even have an entity yet. I can help there, and you probably do help there. Yet our sweet spot is somebody who has a taste of what is to come in the future, and they've done a little bit of growth and they like it, and they've seen the results of it. They've gotten that taste that, gosh, what I do actually is valued out there. Let's go do it at a bigger level. Those are
Yes.
the kinds of small to medium size. And you were my client before I even realized that I already had resource for this. And over the last year, as I've realized that, really started to see how we can work better together. And one main thing is that my audience didn't know you yet. So Jen, let's reel back a little bit. So you live in Utah. Tell everybody about you and your family and what you do. Not
Yeah.
necessarily what you do, because that's business.
And before I forget, because you've said so many great things that light bulb going off, I love being flexible for a business. And to your point, say it's the first year and all they need is really basic accounting. They don't even have payroll. But as that need arises, then we're able to talk about it and plan for it and then add to the plan that they already have. Whereas if you compare it to, say, they hired a part-time bookkeeper and then it's, oh, and now we want to do payroll and KPIs, then it's, oh, now we need to either let go of this person and hire a new person. But we avoid that entirely because we can scale. And I
Yeah.
also, I always have the business owner's interest first. So if I'm talking to someone, tell me about your business, tell me about your accountant or bookkeeper, and I look at their financials and I'm like, you know what? They're actually doing a great job. Reach out to me if you have any questions in the future. I'm never going to say, oh, you've got to use me, you've got to use me. So I do love to just give someone honest feedback, that independent feedback, like that's working great or that's not at all. But the flexibility, I love to be able to help people scale. It's one of my favorite things to do.
On that, before we go to the other
Yeah.
part I asked, so what would you say where's the point in somebody's business, number of employees, revenue, where they should start looking for your services, where they shouldn't be using Quicket or Intuit or whatever that's called,
Quicken,
Intuit.
Quicken, QuickBooks, yeah, both.
Yeah, TurboTax, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a local small one-person CPA firm that just does the reporting. Like, where in their growth is where they start, and then where does it get to a point where it might be a little bit like they may need to move to in-house counsel instead of you all?
Right. Great question. I'm going to answer that in two different ways. One of them is if you hate accounting and it's just one of those things where it's, oh, I need to balance my business credit card and checking account, and it just is, it's a distraction and it's distracting you from growing your business, then that's immediately the time that you need to say, I hate this, and let me just delegate it right off the bat. Then you should reach out to me. Other times, business owners, they're good at it, they don't mind it, but as the business grows, it gets to a point where it is still deterring from their growth because they're spending the time doing accounting that, and their talents lie in growing a business. So they should be using their time to grow their business. And then lastly, I'll say my ideal client would be one that has about 10 plus employees, over 1 million in revenue, and has been in business for 2 or 3 years.
Okay,
I'll
perfect.
I'll talk to anyone and I'll even just give free advice for someone in more of the early growth stage. But yeah, my ideal client is someone who's ready to grow up and scale.
Cool. Awesome. I'm always ready to grow up. My wife would prefer me to grow up someday. No, that's not what you meant. So I had asked very briefly there, quickly
Oh,
about, I commented, you live in Utah, but you work with people all around the country.
yes. And you
And
did
your team
ask,
is all around
tell
the
me a
country.
little bit about yourself, and you nailed it. I live in Utah, big, beautiful, blended family,
Nice.
baby of seven. One of my daughters works for me, and I really just love to empower my own family, even outside of work. Hey, and this was my podcast last year. It was just like, you want something, just figure it out. Love to do that for my family. And as you mentioned, my husband works for me. It was a year into the business, and I was just getting really busy, and I did have probably 3 or 4 employees at that time. And I just said, what do you think about quitting your job? And so we had to test that out to make sure we would still be married and work together. It wasn't a light decision, but it's been a really great decision. We make a great team.
Awesome. And then the rest of your team primarily works virtually with you, right? Across the
Yes.
country, and you have the ability to scale substantially. Like I brought an opportunity to you and I said, hey, what would it look like if you onboarded 50 new companies this year? And you said, I can scale to considerably higher than that because of the way you've set up your relationships with both virtual and even some out of the US kind of services if you needed to.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love to do is to be able to not put all my eggs in one basket. And so I'm always thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead to make sure that I have the capacity at all times. And that includes, like you mentioned, even offshore. And I had someone ask me once as I was interviewing for a position, and she said, oh, so you do offshore to save money? And I said, no. That's a fringe benefit, perhaps, but I think so many companies do that just to save a dollar. And you know what? If it works, great. But that's not the reason that I do. One of the core values that I have as a business, and not in quotes or anything, but one of those core values is to help others rise. And it's part of the name of my business. And helping other people rise not only includes my team and my clients, but I like to cast the net even wider. And so if I can provide opportunities for women, I say women, it can be men, but at this time it happens to be women. But if I can provide opportunities for growth in other countries, that's the reason that I'm doing it, is for
Oh,
the opportunity, not for me to save money.
yeah, yeah. Quality's not going down for that
No,
for that
no.
reason. Okay, cool. So What is your personal, are you running a business right now personally? Majority of your time running a business? Are you training and leading your team, meaning technically improving their skills? What is your daily, this is more a curiosity question,
Yeah,
not so much for
yeah.
the audience.
No, it's a great question. And I think a question that everybody should be, any business owner should be asking
Sure.
themselves, even if they never planned to exit, they should still be have the mindset of exiting. And this is what
Mhm.
I mean. Your exit could be a 2 week vacation. And that's literally what I just did. Not quite 2 weeks, but again, to have that mentality that if I were to leave for a week, a month, or forever, could this business run? How would it run without me? Processes and empowering people and making sure people have the tools and the skill set that they need to be able to continue running the business in your absence. And so I take pride in my beautiful family, as I call them, or my team, because they are very empowered. And we spend time every week really developing a critical thinking mindset. There's one thing to be said about having a skill set and learning all of the technicalities, in this case, around accounting, but to have a critical mindset, that's an even more valuable skill and muscle to build. So we spend our time developing that.
So you're doing a lot of training together,
Oh, every week.
inspiring.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. One of the things that I really appreciated about Navy nuclear power and the submarine force, which were just tied together in my world, or were in my world, was that we just trained nonstop, kind of like firefighters. We were always
Uh-huh.
training to do something that we hoped we didn't have to do.
Yeah.
And but that is why you can operate out of instinct.
Yes.
And it's why you can immediately, when you're talking to a business owner, you can know right away if you can help and if you can help specifically what direction to push them down. It's great that you bring up exit planning because I think I've teased this out in my to my audience. Maybe I haven't. I certainly have talked about how I want to help business owners thrive and grow and expand their business and add even more value. And one of the programs that I'm just about finished with is called Certified Exit Planning Advisor Role Certification. And at the moment I say that to a lot of people, they're like, what are we talking about exiting? I don't want to exit my business. I want it to be better. And you and I were going through this little analogy that I'd come up with that one of my realizations in this course is that just if you were getting ready or you decided there were a lot of things you needed to fix about your house, this could also be about your car or something, because you know that in the future you may want to trade it for something else or go do something else, right? And does it have any value? You look around and you're like, today it doesn't have any value. But to get a house at its optimal value, and I would think that if you're doing it right, your house is at its highest value the moment you sell it. And so all of the properties that I've gone through, I would say that's true. Sometimes people just decide to sell it and not do any work on it, but then they take a big hit. And so if
Mhm.
you wanted your house to be what is all of the things that are wrong with it, you have to do this assessment, like exactly what is the situation. And then so you get appraisers and you get inspectors, and then you figure out what all the things are, and then you figure out which ones you really want to fix. And if it's all of them, awesome. And then you go through and you check in on things like, okay, we got the roof done. That's cool. We checked on this thing. It's a mess. We're not even going to touch that one. Whatever it is, we were going to add a room to better fit the neighborhood, but we decided that's too expensive. We're going to skip that. And so you just go over it. And then when you're done, this thing is beautiful and ready to sell, but it's also beautiful that you may want to pass down to your kids or live in for a few more years. But your life is better because you went through that process. And so this process does the same thing for businesses. It gets them operating at a level where everyone would want to buy in for top dollar, but it doesn't mean they actually want to sell it. It's just the
Yeah.
process. It's just good business practice. And you had shared that you do very similar process for your clients. Maybe it's not called that, but it's a similar kind of, you said monthly or so get together with the client.
Yeah. What I say unofficially is to help them grow up because we're all learning, we're all in this growth phase. But when a business owner is really gets serious about wanting to improve and scale and grow the business, that's where I come in. And I'm not just looking at your numbers, but I'm looking at your processes and suggesting more efficient, better, cleaner, more accurate ways to do things. And that's just one of the examples of helping someone grow up. And I mean that in the kindest, endearing way. Not you need to grow up, but let's help you grow up. And I'm growing up as well in marketing and in areas that I don't know as much about.
Yeah. And sometimes exiting means, again, passing it to your kids. Sometimes it means you just step out of the role and you show up twice a week. Sometimes it means an employee sale, so your employees buy the thing from you. The goal, the intent, I think, of your company and of mine is to help business owners get their company to a place where everybody wants it from them.
Yes.
Their life is much better.
And I'm glad you
Right?
brought that up again because I did have another thought on that, which is a lot of times when someone is leading a 9 to 5 business, a W-2 business, and they want to become new business owners because of freedom and flexibility. Like, how often do we
Mhm.
hear, I want to do my own thing. I don't want someone to tell me what to do. I want that freedom and that time and flexibility. But what generally happens is you have less time and less freedom because now you're always in your business. So, along the topic of having an exit mindset, even if you never exit, it's really because then that's how you're creating the freedoms that you always wanted as a new business owner. Is if you're able to, again, those processes and the people that are in place, that's where you can have that freedom. And then you're not always the one that's putting out all the fires and addressing all of the things. So it's just a quality of life from day one.
Yeah, and when you're working in the business so hard like that, which is my kind of go-to,
Mhm.
unfortunately, it's a crutch, but it's where I find myself often. You don't have the ability to work on the business at all, and you get stuck, right? And then so then you also know that there are all these. You're not an accountant, but yet you're doing the accounting, and so now you're completely distracted and stressed out about the fact that your books are a mess and you can't think about operating the business even if you weren't, chief bottle washer and cook, right? Like even
Yeah.
if you hire somebody, you're still going to be stressed out because you haven't hired the right people who can alleviate concerns about that you've created a big mess and you don't want anybody to find out about it, which is
Yeah.
quite often, I think, the case.
Yes. And you said this, I'll say it again because it's such an important question for business owners to ask themselves every day. Am I working in the business or am I working on the business? And you
Yeah.
should be working on the business.
Initially, there has to be both. If you find that you're the only employee, you're going to have to work in the business until you can sprinkle in the working on it to get somebody else there. But you want to always increase the working on and decrease the working in. As you
Yes.
said, if you can go away, I think the evidence of a really good leader is when they go on vacation and come back after a month, the business is running better than it was when they left.
Yes.
Because they're sprinkling in these cool new ideas is a bit distracting. It's important, but it
Uh,
is distracting on the efficiency of the business. And that's really your role is to make observations and create new things to think about, but not at the pace where you make all the wheels fall off the business.
yes. Yeah. And another sign of a good leader is to hire people that are smarter than you.
Yeah.
And that can hit someone's pride. But if you're the good leader, that's not hitting your pride because you recognize that. And I can say that I have many women that are better than me. And I say that with pride because, again, that's a sign of a good leader.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does it look like when if somebody's interested, they've heard our podcast, they're interested in learning a little bit more, what's that look like?
What I'll do is I'll ask for access to their books for 5 or 10 minutes. I feel like a doctor to some degree where I know what I'm looking for. I can get in and let's say do an examination and tell them the health of their books. And I'll say, I'm not telling you like healthy as in you're making a profit or you're not, but let me just tell you what the story is being told, whether it's right or wrong. And then I'm able to say, here's some areas that you should be focusing on, or in some instances, like, looks great. Whoever's doing this for you, continue. Unless it's them, then I'm like, have me do it because then you can grow your business. But
Mhm.
really, that's it. That's the initial. Because a lot of times, if it was just a verbal conversation, then they forget many important things because accounting isn't their first thought process. And yeah, if I can just look at the existing financials, I can tell them quite a bit in 5 or 10 minutes. And then
That's
we can
cool.
use that as a springboard on where to go next.
Okay, very cool. And so how do they reach out to you and do that?
So typically, my clients are using QuickBooks online, and I'll ask for an accountant invite. And that allows me just to log in and take a peek, and they can just take me off the account in 10 or 15 minutes. Or sometimes we'll look at it together. We'll get on a shared screen and I can talk them through the different things.
Okay,
And I
cool.
love to do that. I mean, that everyone has their nerdy thing that they love. And I would do that for anyone pro bono any day to just tell them about the story of their books.
So at this point in the journey of your company, you're doing all of these personally when you're meeting new clients and onboarding.
Yes, I am, because it really doesn't take much time. And
Cool.
I
That's amazing
love
to me that you
meeting
could do
new
it in that amount
people.
of time. That itself is a skill set to be able to do that in 10 or 15 minutes. Awesome. So what is the physical step they do? Just reach out to you via email or what should they do?
Yeah, a phone call, an email. I've got a Calendly link on my website, riseaccountingllc.com, and we just start from there.
All right, awesome. I'll put your contact info as well in the end of the podcast. And everybody, I hope this has been helpful. I'm very inspired about what Jen and teams like hers bring to our audience and to business owners because I want to mainstream business ownership in America. That's where we were 250 years ago. We're hitting an amazing milestone this summer, and I think we should use it as an opportunity to give that stuff a rebirth.
Thanks, Gary, and thanks for always adding so much value to your audience. You're one of those people that just has that a genuine heart of giving and adding value, and that's why we have such a great relationship.
Well, thanks for saying so. Thanks so much, Jen. I love having you on. Say hi to Mr. Travis. And until next time,
All right.
Gary's Gulch, go make something amazing happen.